I've been watching something recently, Will.
Oh yeah, what have you been watching?
I've been watching Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and I think that you'd really enjoy it.
Oh really?
Yeah, you should check it out.
Should I go do that now?
Yeah, right now.
Right now.
Go.
Oh.
Right now.
Okay.
I'll entertain everybody else. You take your headphones off,
Yep.
go to the TV,
Yep.
watch it now.
Okay.
Go.
Right.
Okay. I didn't think this far ahead. I can't entertain everybody by myself.
Hey Sam,
Hey.
I've watched Cyberpunk.
My God.
And it was...
Shall we review it?
Okay.
Cliffhanger.
And it was the biggest pile of cow turd and Cybertronics I've ever seen.
Wow. I thought you were just going to go, and it was one of the shows that I've ever seen.
It was one of these shows that I've ever seen. So, let's talk about Cyberpunk then. This show...
Get into it.
This is, like, intense.
It's big.
It's big.
It's flashy.
It's very flashy. So
It's a Netflix exclusive if you're looking for where to watch it.
okay, so I turn on this show, right? And the first thing that I think is that Franz Ferdinand? Like,
Is that Franz Ferdinand?
it sounds like Franz Ferdinand.
Yes, it is. Coming in at the very beginning of the show, for some reason, Franz Ferdinand. About
Why not?
This fire is burning me up.
What a
Will.
song.
And I want to burn the city.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. It fits
What did you
so
think
well.
of the? It does, absolutely. Thematically and just as a bop
Yeah.
in and of itself.
Yeah.
Great pick. What did you think of the visuals for the opening? Like, that's one of the first things that we kind of... Maybe not for the first episode.
It reminded me of Kill
every
Bill.
episode after that. Very Kill Bill. Yeah, like the strong yellows and reds like flashing across the screen.
Yeah, it was good. It was they didn't try too much. The thing is, who's the studio that made this?
This is Studio Trigger.
Studio Trigger. The thing is, that Studio Trigger with they are bright and flashy anyway. So the bold colours is very much them, and it works well. Like it's I don't know. You I think you'll be better explaining how this OP fits into this sort of narrative, because there's a lot going on with the silhouettes and with the sort of characters in the background, but it is overall quite a simplistic OP compared to a lot of shows. It's just sort of one colour and then a load of weird...
And then our silhouette of our main character starting to run and towards the viewer and towards the city. Yeah. Cyberpunk, if people don't know, and I know that you were a bit new to it as well coming into this, is a tabletop RPG, which is similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but with a more sci-fi flavour to it. And it's usually set in a place called Night City. This metropolitan urban nightmare city, metropolis, if you will, based, I think, in California.
What?
And
that's news to me. All right, okay, it's Cali, LA, baby.
It's Cali. Let's go.
Where are all the surfer dudes?
California is it's a hellscape. We don't like living in California sucks. That's the message that all dystopian sci-fi tries to teach us, is that California sucks. So with regards to the OP, it's talking about how there's a fire inside our protagonist, and we see him start to walk, and we get glimpses of the city encroaching upon him, and the characters that he's going to meet start to flash up inside him. The people who shape his life are flashing in within him. Lucy and Maine and Becca, they're all there as he's walking forward, and as the tempo of the song starts to kick up,
almost influencing. They are the fire in his city.
They are the fire inside of him that's burning me, burning the city. But we never hear the song say that it's going to burn the city, because, Will, you can't burn Night City. Night City itself is too big of an entity. And as David grows and the fire within him is building and he's walking towards the screen, he's eventually stopped by the city personified. A silhouette of a man with a gun full of flashes of skyscrapers as the skyscraper man shoots our beloved in the head.
Yeah.
Because that's what kind of a story it is.
Yeah.
Here in
got me
the
hyped.
world of Night City and the world of Cyberpunk as well. It's a hype opening that also reflects the reality of any Cyberpunk story, which is the city is brutal, the world is brutal, and you get these individuals that burn out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah.
And that's what leads us into 9 out of the 10 episodes. Like, very striking.
Yeah. Yeah, wait. When does it not lead us into it? Does it not do it in the final? No, it does do it in the final episode.
Episode 1, we kick in straight to the Cyber Psycho.
We do!
And then...
Oh, yeah. So,
which, again, visually...
yeah, incredible. So this whole cyberpunk world then...
What did you think?
I mean, I'm assuming anyone who takes their time to watch this will have seen this show, or at least experienced cyberpunk in general. And by the way, we're going to do full spoilers because I ain't...
Absolutely.
I ain't holding back. So this world aesthetic...
You woke up and chose violence.
It's mind-boggling. Like, it's... like you said, I'm not particularly familiar with this world, but you've got... It's almost cyborgs. Like, people are just kitting up themselves with tech. It's in a sort of post-apocalyptic situation, world where Night City, everything is so highly advanced that people are upgrading themselves. They don't just like buy tech and buy hardware as like...
This ain't your
items.
normal Google Glass. This is embedded in your actual brain kind of stuff.
It's basically, it's what we're at the start of now with the microchips we've all been implanted with over the past couple of years. We're just on our way to...
the 5G that's speaking to me through my brain.
Yes. Yeah, it's great though. Great service. Can't really complain.
Oh yeah, great.
Apart from
YouTube behind my retinas.
apart from sometimes an occasional glitch. You know what this also ends up being, this show?
What does it also end up being?
GTA when you've got 5 stars. Like, that's basically
by the last episode. Yeah.
I was just like, this is just... He's just like constantly collecting body armor as he goes around and just constantly like collecting health, like
to make sure that he can take on the cops.
Yeah, he just like keeps injecting himself with the health just to make sure that he can go another round. And it's
oh, that's not fair. He's got the cheat code.
Yeah. He's got unlimited
jetpack.
He's got jetpack. Yeah, he just types in the jetpack code. He's got like I don't know, removes all weapons at some point from the enemy, which is quite handy.
Yep. And it all just builds towards that the fantasy of I can just do whatever I want in GTA, which ironically was what the game was kind of billing itself as to begin with. So there was a game of Cyberpunk that came out that this
which
is
you've played.
loosely connected to.
I haven't played.
Which I have started playing. I've just finished the first act, and yeah, it's better than it was. So it used to be awful, but with patches and bug fixes and a new
Don't play
wave
it
of
down.
interest,
You're
thanks to
loving it.
Edgerunners.
You're loving it.
I'm loving it.
But are you
man.
loving it
It's
more
just,
because of the anime?
I think probably so. I think if I went into this not having watched the anime, I'd probably view it as it's first-person GTA in a bit more of a limited way. Whereas now
I've got a question. Just to, I mean, finish your thought by all means. But I've got a question about the sequencing of, because are these patches and things?
Yeah.
You said that there's hints at the characters from the anime in the game. Like you can go to certain places,
and that was their day one.
That was their day one.
Yep. But then
before the anime,
recently, so when the anime dropped,
yeah.
So before the anime, there were still glimpses. There's a drink named after David that has been in the game the whole time. Okay. But then after the anime dropped, there was a specific amount of Edgerunners side quests that came in. So that included getting the jacket that David wears and Rebecca's shotgun, and also a mini mission involving Falco.
Okay, that makes sense.
You can
so those have been put in since the anime. That's good. That's cool.
Since then, yeah. It makes the world feel a bit more living.
Yeah, but you're enjoying the game? Happy with the way it's going?
Yeah, I'm enjoying the game so far. It is very, Cyberpunk in terms of like even just this first act. It's taken me 6 hours to get through the opening of the game, arguably. The screen at the end of the bit that I just played went all like black, and then the title card popped up like Cyberpunk 2077. I was like, I'm 6 hours in, and now you're showing me the title screen. What is going on?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be at this for a while, but yeah, the anime pushed me towards the game, and I've always wanted to try it out. It's just that the reports of the glitches and the commitment to play like 100+ hours of the game that I wasn't sure I was going to like.
Yeah, Sam.
Didn't quite.
But that's you all over, isn't it? You know, you don't have to commit. Like, you don't have to commit the 100 hours.
What do you mean?
I guess if you're paying,
I have to finish the game.
I guess if you're paying for it though as well, like you don't want to invest that money in like an hour's gameplay.
Yeah, true. Well, you say that. Like, it was on sale because, again, it launched in such a buggy state that I just went, 2,000 yen? Sold. I'm in.
Yeah. It'll probably skyrocket now the anime's been released. Just
absolutely. Like, it was on sale for the first week the anime was out,
right,
down to like 75% off or something, and now it's gone back to full price on every store that I've seen. Great. So, tough luck.
And you're playing that on a PS5 as well, aren't you? You're not playing that on a PC.
I am, in fact.
Yeah.
Yes. I waited. That was another reason that I waited, was because I wanted to play it with the upscale graphics, and I wanted HDR on, and I wanted to wait until I got like a TV that was good enough to actually show it off. And honestly, the game is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like, my partner came around and watched me play like a couple of minutes of it, and they were saying that it's incredible. It's like its own little virtual reality.
Yeah.
Because everything down to like the pores of skin and the texture of the leather that people are wearing are immaculately detailed. So less of a GTA, more of a first-person RPG at the moment, with elements of first-person shooting. So yeah, I mean, and again, the anime pushed me towards it. So
bleep. So nice, good save. So
I'm waiting for you to punch the shelf down again.
Yeah. There's comparing the game and the graphics and things like that to this anime style, which Studio Trigger is so well known for. Quite contrasting. Is there? Do you think there's any sort of a
disconnect, maybe?
Not necessarily disconnect, but any sort of kickback from the fans of the game and the and stuff that they chose to go with Studio Trigger and their sort of blocky sort of style, as opposed to a more realistic aesthetic.
I know that when it was first announced, especially with the state that the game was in, a lot of fans were worried because Trigger is well known for producing very stylistic anime. So we have things like Kill la Kill or Panty and Stocking, which are very, like you said, simple designs to maximize the flow of the animation. And that to the super realistic game seemed to have a bit of a clash.
Okay.
But online discourse, since it's come out, the creators took such painstaking efforts to recreate locations from the game, almost like shot for shot. Basically, anywhere that David and Co go in this anime is almost like a drawn over background from a place you can actually visit in the game.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that level of detail that's gone into it has kind of won a lot of fans over. So even though the characters are a lot more blocky and simplistic, the story that it's telling and the attention to Night City as it's known in the game has won over a lot of those video game only fans and has kind of like reaffirmed their love for this world and the space of Night City.
Okay, cool. So that makes it sound really like a bit of a passion project, doesn't it? Like they've loved the game, they've loved the world, so we're gonna do this, and it's gonna be in our own style, but we're gonna stick to what it is and the truth of the game and the cyberpunk world. Okay then, so let's move on to thinking about the story and the narrative of our characters here, because it's an interesting one. It's one that
it is definitely,
I think, has a load of pros and potentially some cons. Some things that I like and don't like. I'm trying not to just give away or reveal all my cards.
To just throw it all out there. Okay. So let's start maybe with the driving force of the plot and start with David. What do you think of David Martinez, our protagonist for these 10 episodes?
Yeah, he's a bit of a knob, isn't he? Really, at the beginning,
he's a bit of a rough around the edges guy.
Yeah, he goes to school. So is Arasaka? Arasaka.
One of the corps.
Is that also the name of his school as well?
So it's an Arasaka-backed private school.
Yeah.
So they are essentially trying to bring people in, the best of the best, so that they then join Arasaka straight out of high school, and they're basically trained to be a corpo from the get-go.
Right. So he's part of that school, but he's from the wrong side of the tracks, isn't he? He's rough and ready, like you say. Mum is typical protagonist
hardworking
parent.
Single mother.
Yeah, hardworking single mother.
Dead.
Soon to be dead.
Protagonist parent.
Yeah.
Dead.
And David then has to find his way in Night City. He joins a crew, and the whole story is him working his way with this crew, finding his skill, finding the Staten Deva blind, whatever it's called.
Sandevistan.
Yeah, I'll go with that. Sure. The super spine. I'm going to call it super spine from now on.
Super spine, which gives him bullet time, so he can be Neo from the Matrix.
Yes,
which is funny because Keanu Reeves is a main character in the video game. So,
what? How is this?
Yeah.
How is this not common knowledge to me? Because I am.
Keanu Reeves was the main selling point of 2077.
That's fascinating, because I was also thinking there's a bit in episode, I don't know, one of the early episodes when he fights with the bully, and he learns MMA combat.
I know kung fu.
He's like, yeah, I know kung fu. It's basically that, and he's like,
full Bruce Lee.
Yeah, and it's just literally a chip where he's downloaded that skill and
some MMA fighters details, and he's like, yep,
it's so Matrixy. And I just thought, and lo and behold, Keanu's involved.
Good old Keanu.
Yeah. Okay. So David, he's he works his way through the ranks of this edge running gang, I guess, who live life on the edge.
On the edge,
moving quickly
as they run. Who would have thought?
And his boss is Maine, and we meet all the other cast. We've got Lucy, we've got
Dorio, Lucy,
Rebecca,
Kiwi, Pilar, Becca. Yeah,
and there's also Doc in the background,
whole colourful cast,
not related to the gang.
Oh yeah, Doc Ripper.
He sort of helps. He's there as well, and he gives some life advice to our character from time to time.
Life advice and fun times for himself with an auto self-pleasurer.
Yes,
that he has equipped.
Absolutely,
it's a gritty world.
It is a very gritty.
It's a gritty world where people do debaucherous things on a whim, and people die and kill others in gloriously hyper-violent.
So there is a lot of hyper-violence.
Absolutely. Episode 3 or 4, we see a man get atomized, essentially, by Maine.
Yeah.
Who is our big gun arm, massive beast of a man, who uses his arm cannon to turn a punk into teeth, bone, and blood.
Yep.
And spray it all across the side of the building. And
do it from 4 different angles.
One of the least... 4 different angles. And that's probably one of the least egregious scenes.
It is, because at that point, we're not really seeing detailed anatomy. It's more like, hey, there's a big spray of blood and a few little bits and pieces, whereas
he's just been liquidized
later on. And I'm specifically thinking of the
eyeballs pop.
I'm specifically thinking the first time I really clocked it was the infiltration that they make into Asakara. What's the place called again? Arasaka. Atakanti. Yep. Yeah.
A fine Chianti. Delicious.
Do you know the bit I mean though? When he has his first batch of psychosis and
his first psychosis. Yeah.
And he shoots the guy in the head.
Shoots the guy.
And then shoots the girl. We see a lot of brain. A lot of the head just sort of falls apart, and we see jaw and skull. and spraying.
I'd even say earlier. I'd say when Pilar dies in episode 4, like when we realise that none of the gang are safe, like anybody can die at any time in this show, and Pilar gets shot through the head, and we see it from 4 different angles, and we see the bullet entering, we see his eyeballs fly off, we see the bottom half of his jaw remain, and it's just pretty grim.
Yeah, he's pretty dead as well.
And he's very, very remarkably dead. Yeah. But I will say maybe the most graphic bit that has stuck in my brain rent-free is near the end. It's like maybe episode 9 or 10, where Falco fires a harpoon from the front of his car into a man, 2 men, one of whom gets hit in the head with it, and then the harpoon comes back along with most of that man's face.
Yeah. Can't say I can't.
And so there
was a lot going on during that. I don't specific. I remember the harpoon. I don't specifically remember the graphicness, but yeah.
Maybe you've blocked it out. You've just repressed it.
Just repressed.
Like, nope.
That never happened. Yeah. What are you on about?
So if hyperviolence isn't your cup of tea, then maybe this is a show that you might want to skip.
Yeah.
However, we love it.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk more about how graphic it is. There's just people having sex. Well,
there are. Yes.
There's nipples everywhere.
There are naked bodies.
I'm pretty sure we see the entirety of a number of different genitalia.
Yes.
Cyber enhanced or otherwise.
Yeah.
It's 18 for a reason.
It is. Is it 18? I'm assuming it is. There's so many F-bombs, there's a lot of bad language, a lot of vulgar sort of references. It is a debaucherous world, like you said. Which is fascinating as well, though, isn't it? Because it just feels so proper real and lived in and gritty and dark and there's so much to do with the narrative that needs that in order for it to keep going, because the narrative, the way David's story goes is really depressing and dark, and
as are most characters in Cyberpunk, in any kind of cyberpunk setting, like most stories are bound to end in tragedy, and David's is no exception. It's just that because we get to know him so personally from the very first episode and see what he's gone through, it kind of stings all the more.
So you haven't played the game before very recently, but are you familiar with the tabletop?
I'm somewhat familiar with the tabletop. I set up a game ready to go maybe a year or so.
Oh yeah, I was going to go to that.
You were going to be involved with that, but then you were like, time zones. I'm not going to get up at 2 a.m. in the morning just to play a tabletop game with you on a Sunday night. I wonder why. But yeah, no, I knew of the world of Cyberpunk. I dabbled in it a little bit back when I used to play D&D at a comic shop. And also, I just love the genre as well. I'm a big fan of Ghost in the Shell and Pat Labor and all those sort of old school 80s, 90s visions of the future. Like, we're at a point now as a society where what we see in Cyberpunk 2077 and Edgerunners, we're never going to get there. Like, this is a future that we have bypassed because of the way that our own tech has evolved and the way that our own society has evolved. This is a very 1980s, 1990s view of the future.
I explain. Why are we never going to get there, Sam?
So,
why can I never be borged up to the max? I want Cybertronics coming out of my arsehole. Sorry, poor choice of words.
Literally, sometimes.
Yeah. Why can't I have that?
We might see the cybernetic side of things. We might see biotech and robotic limbs.
I mean, there are biotech for injured people. You know, people who we've got bionic legs and limbs and stuff at the minute.
Yeah.
So there is an element of it.
But in terms of the lived-in world, we're at a point where the internet as it exists is fully connected, and there's really nothing we can do to segregate that. The world of Cyberpunk imagines that the internet and the global net was taken down by one unique hacker, and then you now no longer have a world wide web. You can't just Google stuff. Everything is now a contained net system. So every building security.
How do you find out what the weather is? How do you know?
You have to log into the individual weather network of the world. And the idea of not being able to just access information at any time is something that we are far beyond now. There is no way that we can take down the internet into a state that is cyberpunk. That's why...
Play this back in 50 years' time.
No, has this aged poorly? If this is on a data disk that is lying around there in the wasteland, then you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you found it.
That's scary.
The one podcast / YouTube channel that has survived for so long. Yeah. But also in terms of the wearable tech and things like that, like the idea of hacking as it is in this show, where it has to have a visual representation, diving into the net with your consciousness and the way that things turn up on a heads-up display.
Yeah.
We're so far beyond that. Hacking now is instantaneous. You can plug a USB drive into somebody's computer and have access to all the information that they've ever had on that instantly. There is no tapping on the computer keyboards, like you know how you see in TV shows and stuff, where I've got to hack the mainframe and he's tapping the keyboard randomly. That doesn't exist. Hacking now is almost autonomous and AI fueled.
Yeah.
We're not going to reach a Cyberpunk Edgerunners version of the future. We're basically already there, but it's a lot more mundane.
Yeah, it's boring.
Our capitalist...
That's sad. We are in Night City. Oh.
Yeah, we basically... A lot of things that are brought up in cyberpunk narratives, we are already living.
Yeah.
Like controlling the data for the masses, profiling.
Do you know the scary thing is?
That's all there.
I mean, as a metaphor, I'm sure it's been brought up many a time, but I'm brand new to this, so I'm gonna say things that are probably blooming well obvious to everyone else in this world. But like, as a metaphor, you've got Night City that people can't escape from, but you literally can. It's like the world is Night City, and we are all a part of it, and we can't escape, and that's why they represent.
I want to go to the moon.
Yeah, they represent. Their moon is their like oasis of just like outside of Night City, and we are. We're all just trapped in the internet in the world that we live in. Just rambling now, but it's opening up new levels of parallels to me that I didn't really think about when I was watching.
Not considered before.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, that's good.
Okay, so yeah, David ends up following Maine, and Maine as a character. Do we like Maine?
I love Maine.
Yeah.
I think he's just the right amount of, I don't know, attitude, bulk, and mentor.
Yeah.
Like a rough around the edges guy who's going to teach you the ropes, but he's going to be begrudging about it the whole way until a point, and then you're all right with him.
Yeah.
Now you're on the level. Like the fact that a bunch of the time he's trying to shag Dorio and at the same time sending David off on like go-for missions. Like go deliver these arms to Pilar and go do this. But he's
such a veteran.
He sees something in the kid.
Yeah.
He's been around the block a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. He's seen it all, he's done it all, and he does see something in David, and he likes his sort of gumption.
His spine.
Yeah, he likes his spine.
That's mine.
So
give it back.
Yeah, give me my spine. How about no? How about I keep the spine?
How about I keep it?
Well, this isn't a negotiation. Give me that spine.
But what if I go really fast?
But what if I take your cigarette? Can I keep it then?
I fired it up 10 times today. That's not impressive. You're going to die. Give me the spine before you burn it out.
So that's another whole concept of the show, isn't it? This idea that, you can upgrade yourself, but there is a cost. And if you keep upgrading yourself, I wonder if there's like a really peak happy medium. And that's what makes me curious about David's character, because I feel he's so OP by the end with all of this cyber skeleton stuff that he gets. But there must have been a point where like you can handle this indefinitely, because people have cybertronics just in their body anyway. Yeah. So there is a safe way to use these, and David shows that he can handle a certain amount, and that would be relatively persistent. Like hopefully that would just maintain and you'd be fine. So when he's absolutely stacked, he's pretty much internally
mostly cyborg.
He's pretty much Borg, isn't he? Like his torso looks fairly fleshy, so potentially that's got. But we already know his lungs are done. His lungs are done in like episode 2 or 3.
His lungs have been done up. We know that his arms are. One of his arms, at the very least, has been replaced with Maine's cannon. Yeah. His legs have been all done up.
His legs are completely gone.
Maybe
because he
his
uses-
genitals have.
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows?
We know his eyes have, and like.
Yep, his eyes have been done up,
So
potentially.
I think
other bits and
pretty.
pieces.
We can be pretty because he's got the lines on his face and everything. So I'm pretty sure he's mainly chrome. So
yeah, he's like 90% there. Like, and even at the ending when he's talking to Adam Smasher, he's like, "Oh, like so I heard you went full bore."
Yeah,
and Adam Smasher fires back. He's like, "Yeah, you've got some pretty heavy kit there for somebody of your size yourself." Like, David's gone as far as his limits will take him. But you're right. Like, there is a point where most people operate. Like, we see people like Kiwi or Dorio, and they have cybernetics.
Or Doc.
And they have implants.
Doc's pretty.
Even Doc. He's missing both of his arms, and like his eyes are assumedly also bogged out in cyberware. There is a limit that you can hit where you're comfortable, and you don't have to completely rely on the neuroblockers to keep you on the level. But David just decides to swan dive way past that.
Yeah.
So does Maine, to be fair.
Yeah, Maine, absolutely. And Maine's arc ends brutally. He ends up causing the death of the people that he cares about. I'm good, bro. Need to get some of those cyber.
I went down the wrong way.
Lungs.
I need some cyber lungs. I need a cyber trachea.
Here's a question. David is pretty much 90% Borg, yet still needs to shower. Does he need to shower?
Yeah.
Does he sweat? Does he
I mean, this is a thing both in the game and in the show. Like, even if you get cyber implants, on the surface, aside from like the occasional line that goes down the face of the arms, it still looks like skin on the top. So whether that's artificial skin or whether it's, I don't know, like just there for visuals or aesthetics, like there's potential that there's parts of them that still sweat. Maybe it's also getting in the shower when you're fully borged. Doesn't seem like a good idea.
Does it? No, they must have very quickly in this universe,
waterproofed everything.
Yeah, they've solved the electric and water don't mix thing. Like, get this in the
That's a bit of deep lore.
Pokemoniverse, and then it's carnage. It just throws a spanner in the wrench of every battle
Chuck
ever.
a Voltorb into the shower, and it's just like, oh no, there goes the entire power block.
Yeah. Lots of questions. Small questions, really, in the grand scheme of things, but important nonetheless.
So what did you think of the story in general then? Like, the story of David coming up to be part of the gang until episode 6, and then him leading his own gang.
So
after that point, what did you think?
Peek behind the curtain a little bit. We have had a little bit of a conversation, so I am going to make my views expressly very, very clear. I'm going to try to make them clear about David's arc. I think up to a point, I believe it, and I really enjoy watching David join this gang and live this life. I think it's his only option at the beginning. Yeah. He uses the Sandeverstein or whatever it's called. Super Spine, sorry. I forgot its real name. Super Spine.
Bullet time spine.
Yes. Yeah. Speedy
it's
McSpiney.
Speedy McSpiney.
He uses that...
Spiny McSpine face. Sorry.
It's all right. Well, he uses that to a crazy effect, and he gets into the gang because of that spine, and he then sets his sights on moving his way up and showing what he can do. He gets new lungs, and he starts to build small bits of chrome, and he falls in love with Lucy, and they're then doing jobs, and then Maine has his big thing. Now, the narrative I portrayed in my head that I still think would have been better is that there's moments in...
Give this man a show.
What?
Put this man at the director's...
Look, again, people might absolutely disagree, but I think what disappoints me about David's arc is that I don't buy in. He's portrayed as this intellectual kid who is special, and he has this aura about him that he has. I mean, if crying out loud, he's the protagonist of the show. We want him to have something about him, and he does. He's a well-liked character who is doing potentially making bad decisions for the right reasons. And it gets to the end of his arc, and he ends up sacrificing himself for Lucy's dream, which is a poetic ending. Yeah, it's very sad. I get that.
It hurts, man.
It hurts. But you know what doesn't hurt? Like you said, the very last. I think you like the very last scene, don't you? With the moon and.
Yeah, so we get Lucy. She goes to the moon, and she's done it. She's achieved her dream, and then she sees a vision of David. And for me, I think that she realizes that it wasn't getting to the moon that she wanted. It was just that she wanted somebody to be there for her, and that was David. And now he's gone. And it's just the way that it's shot and the music and everything just like really just evokes tears.
Yeah. No, I
from
completely
my soul.
get that. But I think the more powerful bit was Rebecca when she has that moment where she looks into his eyes, and she said, and he says something about his mum, sort of like, "I'll
Let's go, Mum. I can do it. I'll get to the top of Arasaka."
And Rebecca realizes that he's completely lost it to the psychosis, and she still agrees to go with him and still agrees to do it. And it's just this. It's destined to fail. It's destined to end badly, and they still go gun-ho into it. It's like Night City has just consumed them, and this is them throwing themselves into it and giving up. And by that point, David's actions are completely like normal. Like, yeah, okay, he's lost it. That's fine. I can buy into all that. I just wanted potentially him to show his potential in a better way. I guess that.
But doesn't that add to the tragedy?
It does. It does add to the tragedy. It shows, like what you said with the OP, that you can't destroy Night City. Like, you can never beat Night City. It will always get you in. You
can't burn this city.
You can't burn this city. You will always end up being burned yourself. You will always end up being destroyed. And I get that. And
it's like Lucy says, like, you don't make a name for yourself as a cyberpunk about how you live. You make a name for yourself as a cyberpunk by how you die.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's good. It's good. I just wanted it to be more, because there was also hints at like,
and there's so much hints towards like how he could have gamed the system, or how he could have rose above his station. Like it's the classic story of that you see all the time in like loads of different points of media. Like the person with the promising future throws it all away, makes bad decisions, ends up on the wrong side of the law or whatever, and it's tragic because they could have had a promising future, but they throw it all away for immediate gratification or something similar. It's a tale as old as time, but in this case, it's thanks to Studio Trigger and the direction at the absolute extreme of that. It is okay. So he could have been a corpo. He could have risen to the top of Arasaka, but instead he decides to don this cyber skeleton, turn 50 plus guys into red paste in the middle of the desert, and then try to attack the tower. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. And then and I also question the use of Smasher at the end a little bit, because he's been mentioned like once. There seem to be a few things as they try to tie it all together, and I think you've mentioned this before about it being difficult to contain this in 10 episodes, and potentially it needed longer to breathe and for each episode to have its own sort of mini narrative, because his inclusion was a little bit out of nowhere. He hasn't had any impact in the show apart from just referencing.
Yeah.
And
he's the legend of Night City, like all this, but then that's it until he turns up in episode like 9.
Yeah. Well, yeah, is it the end of episode 9? Do they just show him, and then in episode 10 he actually
he's like
off?
Sat on the couch, and then it's like, whoa, he's here.
Yeah.
And that's because the nature of this show is that it is a tie-in with the video game.
Yeah.
So for people who've played the game, of course they know who Adam Smasher is. Of course, if you've played the tabletop, even you'll know who Adam Smasher is. The tabletop kicks off in like 2023, I think it is
next year.
Yeah. So look for Keanu Reeves getting a robotic arm next year, and a guy turning himself completely cybernetic. Like, Adam Smasher is a part of the lore, and he's an entrenched cyberpunk character. So him turning up in the anime is meant to be like a big oh moment. Sorry, a big oh no moment. But people that I've talked to outside of you, I don't know. I talk to people outside of you who could possibly imagine.
What do they say?
But other
What
people
do
who've
these
watched the
troglodytes
show,
think?
no, they agree with you, so I wouldn't call them a troglodyte now. Well,
Maybe
hoisted by your own petard there. But they agree. They think that he comes into the game too late. He's not really built up at all. He is a cameo from the game that turns up to basically set everything back to zero. And if you're going to criticize the show, you can definitely criticize his inclusion, because it is very much, here's the guy, he does irreparable damage to our protagonist and then just leaves.
Yeah, he is.
And that's it.
He is a strong, big man that we've just learned about that destroys everything. And it's like the whole story hinges on that. Like, if he's not there, arguably the story goes a different way.
David wins.
Yeah. Well, David wins, but he's also gone past the point of no return, apparently.
Yeah, so he'd probably get taken out eventually, whether it's by him or... And you know what? I kind of like it. I like the idea that Arasaka is this corporation that there's so much we don't know about them, and they are so powerful, and they have so many military assets that are capable of this type of thing, like Atom Smasher. Even if David went fully off the deep end, something is taking him down, whether that's a squad of Max Tech or whether that's Trauma Team. Something would eventually kill him.
Okay, but how good?
Having it be a big full cyborg is just more rule of cool.
It is. It is. I really wanted him to come back from it, though. I really wanted him to be like, and I don't know why. Is it just like the little boy in me that wants the happy ending for the protagonist? Because I really wanted him to be it. Because there's a bit in the show when Faraday, who, for those of us that don't remember, is the guy that's giving the jobs out
fixer.
Effectively. The what?
Yeah.
The fixer.
He's a fixer.
Yeah, he's a fixer.
So he works with the corpos, and he gets mercs to go and do the dirty work that they won't do on the record.
Yeah.
Voiced by Gus from Breaking Bad.
There you go. He has a conversation with a guy in a limo, and you don't see the guy in the limo, and he's clearly pulling the strings and works for the tech. Militech, yeah. And he sounds just like David. Like, in my head, people might disagree, but I was listening, and I was like, that could be David. And I just thought it'd be such a cool, I don't know, switcheroo that David has somehow, because they all want the spine anyway, they all want him, he's managed to broker a deal on the inside, and he is running things from both ends effectively, and he's actually pulling the strings a little bit, because he is supposed to be this intelligent character. He does question Maine when Faraday first shows up, and he's like, oh, so Faraday's actually running you, like he makes the calls, and he's like, and Maine's like, well, yeah, I'll look after my crew. So there was a part of me that really wanted him to have this just dominance on everyone, like he's controlling Faraday.
He wants him to come out on top.
I wanted him to come out on... No, it's not even that, really. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of media, and I think there's a lot of things out there at the minute that have a bit of... they thrive on misery and thrive on trauma and
expectations and kind of...
Yeah, and just having...
Oh, here's the hero's journey, but what if the hero's journey ends prematurely because we've killed him?
Exactly. What if the hero doesn't get everything he wants?
You weren't expecting that, were you?
Oh, yeah, and Night City, and this is what's sort of interesting, because you said earlier, and this is why I asked whether you had much experience with the tabletop. You said Night City is quite renowned for people potentially ending in tragedy, and
Night City consumes people. It's this.
So in the tabletop, is that generally what happens? Like, because I thought when you play tabletop, you're always playing to win.
Well, yeah, but from the very outset of picking up the Cyberpunk books or the GM guide, it's always the corporations always win.
Right.
That's a steadfast rule. You can have small victories, like in the show. David has his small victories. Yep. He saves Lucy here and there.
Yeah, he exposes
jobs.
them a little bit, because at the end they're all very concerned that this is going to be impossible to clean up. Someone's going to have to take the hit.
Yep, and he manages to push himself in that way. But overall, Arasaka's going to be fine. It doesn't matter.
Sounds like a really depressing game to play.
Well, yeah, but this is the thing with cyberpunk as a genre is it's kind of what's it called? Not narcissistic. What's the
Could be narcissistic.
Nietzsche? Fatalistic. It's the idea that nothing matters.
Okay.
Nothing matters, and then you die.
Yeah.
And there's two ways that you can go about that. It's either you realize that there are the daily things that make life worth living, or there's nothing that makes it worth living, and then you just give up. And David is, at the very beginning of the series, so close to being in the latter column. He is devastated. He's got no money. His mum's dead. He's got no father. Everything is encroaching on him. He's been kicked out of his school, and his life is basically over. And he's so close to just allowing that pessimistic, Nietzsche-esque mindset to grab him. And then he chromes up.
Okay.
He makes the decision to do that. And then he finds his family. And he finds the small things that allow him to deal with the just overwhelming misery of the world.
Right.
And that is cyberpunk.
You've explained that very well. And on that note, I will completely change my argument, because knowing that, I think, makes the difference. Because although outside of cyberpunk, I like the narrative where David would have this success over everything, it doesn't in keep with cyberpunk. It doesn't fit in with that story. So like, imagine if they did that, I reckon there'd be uproar. If cyberpunk is so desolate,
somebody won in a cyberpunk story.
Yeah, like this just it doesn't happen. And if he then, I mean, I guess technically you could still have Arasaka winning, because if David then like was a controlling force of that, like he would just replace another corp, and it's that sort of idea of the company survives and keeps going. Yeah, and he's just
the
another cog
person
in the
that we're
system
invested in.
But
which has its own separate level of like trauma.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Yeah, so there are ways
like,
of doing
sadness.
that potentially, but I it completely makes sense to me then that David was destined to lose in this setting, because that's the cyberpunk reality. People don't beat Night City, so that completely tracks. I buy that now. It's just a bit sad because I wasn't going into that knowing that, and I was just like, are they going to just...
Same for me. Like, I love the cyberpunk genre, and I came into this and I was like, oh, Studio Trigger, they're known for fun and bombast. Actually, thinking, the more that I think about it, the more I should have seen the writing on the wall, because a lot of Studio Trigger shows actually don't end happily ever after. There is usually some sort of twinge of sadness connected to most of Trigger's shows. And also cyberpunk, even in like the broader genre, nobody gets a happy ending. Did you survive? Great. Now you're addled with a lifetime's worth of trauma and regret and sadness. You did it. That's the best ending.
And you've got to live on the
for.
moon.
And you've got to live on the moon.
Yeah.
It's a one-way ticket. Oh God, the moon scene. Oh, don't take me back.
I'm sorry, dude.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It just hits me right. Like, for me personally, it just hits me right in the feels of that perfect balance of tragedy, action, comedy, and beautiful animation, all just like merging together.
Yeah. What did you think to Lucy and her like backstory and all that sort of stuff? Do you think it added much?
I liked Lucy. I think Lucy as a character suffers a lot in the second half of the show, because she starts off as this kind of manic pixie dream girl type character who comes in, shows David the ropes, brings him into the gang, betrays him, but then also doesn't, but then kind of starts developing feelings for him.
Yeah.
But then she shouldn't have been a damsel. I think if one of my main criticisms is that she shouldn't have been kidnapped and then just made useless. There should have been another way or another reason for David to go to Arasaka.
Yeah,
to
she
get
does.
The big finale.
She does kick ass a little bit. She has a little breakout, but yeah, she is still just a damsel.
Yeah, it's a real shame that she ends up being just Faraday's trophy, essentially, and that's the big driver. I think that she starts the series so strong with her escape from the ambulance and the idea that she's this really competent netrunner. And then to have her just exposit her backstory and then just become tied up in a trophy for David to get back is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
But also, you know, we've got 10 episodes and we
Just
need them to get to the tower. So
Yeah.
what are we going to do?
I didn't like seeing where the show went. I didn't like the ambulance scene, or the scene when it was.
Yeah, it does feel a bit out of character, doesn't it?
Yeah, she was very like psychotic, like Harley Quinn. She reminds me of Harley Quinn in that scene. Like she's just laughing and like going nuts, and seems to be thriving on like chaos a bit, sort of just a bit like the Joker, and a bit like Harley Quinn always sort of seems to look out basically by just seemingly being reckless, but potentially not. I don't know. It's that.
But it all works out in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she never really does that again. Like,
No.
from that point after the ambulance, she's kind of morose and, you know, just kind of reserved.
Yeah.
It's almost like, is that the one time? But also, I guess, could it be framed, is that the one time that she's fully allowed herself to be herself? And then every other time we see her, she's putting on airs for the gang or for David, because she's either trying to protect David or she's trying to give off this air of authority. It's a two-way street. You could read it either way.
I don't buy that.
They changed their mind after
No.
the second episode.
No. Yeah.
They're like, nope, she's too fun. We need to rein it back.
How is she?
Rebecca is here now. We have to give it all to Rebecca.
That could be a genuine reason why it changed. That absolutely could be.
Because we can't have two psychos like zipping around.
No, and especially when he's attracted to one and not the other. Like, Rebecca is very much this side character that has a thing for David. David doesn't reciprocate. She needs to be contrasting to Lucy. And therefore to have them both have
And the best way to do that is to make her loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably something to do with it.
What did you think of Becca?
Becca. Oh, she's great. She's so much fun.
Best character.
So much
Absolutely.
fun. So much sass. Has she got a New York accent?
I think maybe.
In my head, she's got a New York accent now, which just makes it sound
I'm walking here, David. I'm walking here.
Yeah, that sounds just like
I honestly, and I know that it's been memed to absolute death, but the moment where like David goes, like presses the doorbell and she opens the door with like gun to his head.
Yeah.
Oh, David, my man, how are you doing? And doesn't move the gun away.
Yeah.
She's just like, okay. Oh, she's great.
She is great. And
I
she's
think
probably
the
the
characters
smartest
in
one there.
general-
Like, if she hadn't got enthralled with David and like fell for
She'd be out and safe.
Oh yeah, she'd be ruling the roost. Like, she could easily be like the mastermind behind the scene. Like, she puts people like Maine and David at the front who get a target on their backs, and she's there pulling the strings with the operations and how to. Although she then does get caught a lot in stupid situations, and they have to go and save her.
Yeah, I was going to say actually no, because she's always being kidnapped because she's put her foot in it, or she's getting herself like. All of the bouncers at the club are pulling their guns on her. Like,
I'm being
and
sold
David
to
has
child
bail her out.
traffickers.
No, Anya, no. This is Anya in the future.
Yes.
like she's chromed up and become Rebecca.
Yeah,
I need to see it. I need to see those two interact. But yeah, I think in general the characters here, they're all very strong.
Yeah.
Maine is this tragic mentor figure who ends up getting consumed by his own drive and inability to reflect on himself. Kiwi is, even just because she's there as a hacker, like,
oh yeah, and her betrayal at the end. People. You can't trust anyone.
She doesn't trust anybody,
No.
and she brings Lucy on, like Dorio as the kind of the mum of the group, I guess, the buff, punchy mum.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah.
And she's trying to keep Maine on the straight and narrow and is overlooking. Like, they're all flawed,
Yeah.
but they're all great. And I think that the show, even with the 10-episode runtime and the limited amount of time we get to spend with them, I think that it sells this crew that we could believe that they are a found family.
Right. We can
And
cut.
that's why it hurts so much more.
We can cut this segment if you want, but let's live action. Who plays who?
Oh, who do we cast?
Because Dorio for me is who's the
Bryn.
Yes,
no,
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Brienne of Tarth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Dorio.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Just her image. Yeah, she fits that perfectly.
Okay, so what about Maine then? I think who's Luke Cage?
Oh, I don't know his name. Maybe
But I think that actor, he'd
Tom Hardy?
be great as Maine. For Maine?
he could do it. He could do anything.
Nah. He can do anything, but I don't think he's Maine. He's not big enough to be Maine. I think we get Luke Cage's Maine.
Okay. Yeah.
What about Lucy? I reckon maybe who's the girl from Queen's Gambit?
Oh, I've no idea. I haven't seen it.
This is the worst like segment in the world. We're just like, who's this person?
Yeah, well, we don't.
From this thing.
We have not planned this, and we don't know names. I don't know names. I don't know actors or actresses' names. All right,
okay.
David. Who's David?
I'm sure in editing that we can fix that.
just our mouths are moving completely out. How about Al Pacino?
How about who's the girl from Queen's Gambit? It's just a picture of the Queen's Gambit board game or something
That'll do.
on the thing.
Yeah, that'll do.
David. So he's Martinez. So we need somebody who's Latina.
Good luck with that one.
Do what?
This is a weird segment. Why did you suggest it?
I just.
I don't.
Somebody from Breaking Bad. Go for that.
Sure.
Faraday has to be Gus from Breaking Bad, surely.
Okay. Sure. Or Willem Dafoe.
Or Willem Dafoe. That's not. Willem Dafoe could be all of them.
Yeah.
I want to see Cyberpunk where everybody is Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. Is this in our low budget one where we have the cars?
The cardboard hands.
Cardboard hands. Yeah.
We were really committed, and we didn't want to just like CG the hands on, so we actually put 15 people inside the cardboard boxes with black gloves to make sure that it could hold the cyber skeleton together.
Yeah. It'll work. There's those. I'm getting way off topic now. Anyway, let's move on. Doesn't matter. Not important. Have we got any thoughts? Because we are now so far gone into cyber psychosis that we potentially need to wrap up before we crash.
Yeah, we probably should, really.
Is there anything else that you want to mention before we finish?
Music, the OST is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's a combination of tracks from the game and licensed music from real artists. Who would have thought for an anime?
Yeah.
Whenever it's used, it heightens the scene. It just really adds to everything, and it's also given me a complete trigger warning for I really want to stay at your house. At any given point, I am going to burst into tears. Animation trigger brings it.
Yeah.
Really good. And I don't know, man. Like, it just really speaks to me. It really pushes every button that I want from a cyberpunk story.
Do you think they can redo it? Do you think not redo it? Do you think they can sequel it? Like maybe not with the same cast, but like a standalone new cast.
Maybe not for the same. What cast? There's
That's
none
true.
left.
That's
They're
true.
all dead.
Yeah, that was a silly question.
I would absolutely love to see more stories in this world.
Yeah.
And to see more trigger.
It's why it's done so well
in this world.
as a tabletop, and it's why it's done so well because
Absolutely.
people love the world. Do you think they
You
could?
can tell any story.
Are there enough reference? Have they used up all of their sort of main references? Like, could they? Are there any other huge characters or things that they mention in tabletop that could then start a new sort of arc?
I mean, absolutely, there is. There's so much lore to Cyberpunk, and
Right,
Edgerunners essentially is its completely own story. It's like there isn't really, aside from like Adam Smasher and Arasaka being mentioned and specifically name dropped, everything is anime original.
Yeah. Okay.
And the game more so focuses on like deep lore of the tabletops, like looking at Johnny Silverhand as who Keanu Reeves' character is based on, and the ramifications of that. Whereas the anime is just kind of like, okay, so we gave Studio Trigger a copy of the Cyberpunk tabletop game. They played one game and then made that into an anime. Like,
yeah, well, there you have it.
We could get infinite Cyberpunk stories. Like, the thing is, are we going to get them at the same quality?
Yes.
You'd have to bring the same team back.
Yes.
You'd have to bring back the director and Trigger and everything.
Why would you not
to hit this level
when this has been such a success? Like, this is quality. Okay,
it's so good.
yeah. All right, brilliant. No, I mean, you clearly loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was amazing. And since throughout the discussion, I think it's gone up in my estimations. You know, like there was a part of me that was holding back on the narrative a little bit, and potentially that's just because I'm a little bit of a wuss and don't like sad stories, and it ended really sad. But given the context of the cyberpunk world, I think it works, and I think as a piece of art, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
It's
Just the amount of bones and blood. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this lands easily in a 10 out of 10. It's a masterpiece. I know that there are flaws, and I can identify those flaws, but on just like a personal level, it just hits.
Yeah.
It hits every beat that I want it to. So,
you've got to suspend belief, but if you can, then give this a try if you haven't already.
Absolutely.
Anybody who's watching, enjoy Cyberpunk.
Give it a try if you haven't. We've spoiled everything, but also, like if you liked it, did you agree with us? Like, what do you think?
Yeah. Who's you? Yeah. It seems
do you
like
disagree with anything?
It seems like it's pretty big hitting. It seems like everyone loves it, so I don't think we're going to have much disagreement. But if you were going to tell a new cyberpunk story, what would your narrative be? Like, if you got like, I could spend hours and hours writing different narratives for this world now. That probably wouldn't make any sense because I don't know the lore well enough. But I would have loads of fun just telling different stories in this setting. It'd be so cool. So let us know what your favourite cyberpunk arc would be. And Sam, can I make a suggestion for some point? We don't have to do it soon, but because I don't think you've watched it yet. But based on this Netflix original, I really want us to watch Arcane.
We really should. I've been meaning to do that for a year plus now.
Yeah. So that could be our next project.
Maybe something to look forward to.
But they are like hour-long episodes, and there's like 10 of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
No commitment then. Just a small commitment.
Right, let's leave it there.
Very steampunky.
It is very steampunky, yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, let's leave it there then.
All right.
Cool. Thanks for watching, guys. And, Will, I'll see you later.
I'll see you later, mate. Have fun in Japan.
Have fun in England. Fun in England.